Today we have a pleasure to hear one lady, eminent expert in her field, Professor Katja Mombaur. Professor Katja Mombaur joined the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology in Germany in 2023 as full professor, chair for optimization and biomechanics for human-centered robotics and director of the Biorobotics Lab. In addition, she holds an affiliation with the University of Waterloo in Canada, where she has been full professor and Canada Excellence Research Chair, CERC, for human-centered robotics and machine intelligence. Prior to moving to Canada, she has been a full professor at Heidelberg University, where she directed the Optimization, Robotics and Biomechanics Chair, as well as the Heidelberg Center for Motion Research. Her international experience includes research activities at LAAS, CNRS in Toulouse and Seoul National University, as well as in the United States. She studied aerospace engineering at the University of Stuttgart and sub-aero and holds a PhD in mathematics from Heidelberg University. Katja Mombaur currently serves as the Vice President for member activities of the IEEE Robotics and Automation Society and as Senior Editor of the IEEE Transactions on Robotics. Katja's research focuses on understanding human movement by a combined approach of model-based optimization and experiments and using this knowledge to improve motions of humanoid robots and the interactions of human with exoskeletons, prostheses, and external physical devices. Her goal is to endow humanoid and variable robots with motion intelligence that allows them to operate safely in a complex human world. The development of efficient algorithms for motion generation, control, and learning is a core component of her research. I invite Professor Katja Mombaur to give a presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the really kind introduction. Good morning, everyone. I really appreciate that you are here after this nice long evening yesterday. I would like to start by thanking all the organizers for having me here. It's my second time at RAAD and my first time in Belgrade, and I really enjoy it, so thank you very much. And it's so great to be in this beautiful building and this really nice and historic place. So it's a big place for history of humanoid robots. So I really feel honored to be able to speak about humanoid robots here. So you already heard the great keynote by Alin yesterday about humanoid robots and the future. So I will not talk about general aspects too much. So as you know, we have this huge luck to have all these new robots coming up. So it's really 24, 25, I call it the years of the humanoids, and we have we have all these new platforms coming from industry and also from different research labs. For someone like me who doesn't build their own robots, it's great to have all these platforms available, and I think that will really push our field forward. So as I said, I will not talk about humanoids in general too much, but I will essentially focus on two questions. So this is how important is bio-inspiration for humanoid robots? And on the other side, also which role do optimization and learning play to make our humanoid robots better? And I will be showing you examples from our research, which most of them are not with the new platforms yet, but with also very nice, but a bit older platforms. But what we are doing can easily be transferred. And I will also be talking about what we have started doing right now. Okay, so this is now not working. Yeah, so what are our general research objectives in my lab? So our goal is really to contribute to developing human-centered technology which has some societal impact. So we would like to help developing robot systems that can help in all these dirty, dull, and dangerous jobs, so which includes disaster recovery, work in space, but also airplane and ship manufacturing. So I think humanoid robots and also some other robotic systems can make really big contributions, and we want to help with that. We are also interested in helping with other situations, especially in the healthcare sector, which also were dangerous for a while, like during the COVID pandemic. It was really dangerous to get close to people. But also it's a field where we have a huge shortage of personnel, so also robots could help a lot. But the tasks are very different. So on the one hand, we have a lot of remote and standalone working, while here we have really close interactions with humans. We are also interested in robotic technology that helps to increase people's mobility, so which are exoskeletons, prostheses, mobility assistance devices, which are also human-centered robots sitting directly on the human, and which can help enhance mobility in case of impairment, in case of aging, but which also can prevent damages to the motor system. But I will not be talking about this part too much today. So these are essentially the three research pillars of my chair. We essentially call it the loop from coming from humans, then bringing bio-inspiration to robots, and then in the end closing the loop by giving back. So we perform a lot of biomechanical studies on human motions. We are interested in activities of daily living, in motions and sports, and so on. And then we try to take these insights and transfer them to robots, because robots can take that as an example. We can make humanoid robots move like humans, but we can also, but we also need it for exoskeletons and for other robots interacting with humans. So we need this really profound knowledge of how humans move, so that robots can interact correctly with them. This is what gives us the bio-inspiration, and we have this middle block, which I labeled optimization, because these are the names of my chair. It's called Optimization and Biomechanics for Human-Centered Robotics, but it doesn't only include optimization. It includes all kind of computational models, all kind of control methods, all kind of efficient algorithms that help making that transfer, extracting basic principles from human motions, and doing that transfer to robots, but also controlling the robots to perform their actions efficiently. And then the idea is that robots can give back to humans by supporting humans, by making them move, and by making their life easier, as stated on the past slides. So, human-centered robots require embodied intelligence. You all work in robotics, so you know that this is the challenge of robots, that we have to interact and act in the physical world. So, robots, in contrast to everything what happens in the computer, they have to interact with the world through their body, so they have to perform actions, but also use their sensors to perceive the world and then understand the world and then perform these actions. So they have to be able to predict their motions, they have to be able to intelligently interact with the environment, but they also have to be able to interact with other humans. And here you see pictures of humans who have that skill and who have it really at a very high level. That's maybe not what we need from robots, but we need it at a very good level. So, so this is what they have to learn and what we somehow have to teach them. Okay, so why is that difficult? Yeah, so here we are looking at humanoid robot. This is our robot REAM-C that we have in my Canadian lab. And on the other side you have a human, and both systems are super complex. So already generating motions for these systems is very, very complex. So they have a lot of degrees of freedom, many degrees of freedom. So we have to, these degrees of freedom are joint, they are redundant with respect to the movement task. So there's a lot of different combinations of motions for the joints, which we could do, and some of them are good and others are not so good. So this has to be taken into account. The system is under-actuated, in particular the motion of the system as a whole, like forward in space and turning and so on, is not directly actuated. So we have to combine all the actuated joints in a very coordinated manner so that we have that forward motion or that sideward motion or whatever. Stability control is a big issue. So you all know, pick movies of robots falling. So this happens all the time because standing on two legs is very difficult. And yeah, we are here at the birthplace of the zero moment point. So this is one way of tackling it. But of course, there's also many others, but it needs to be tackled. Yeah, and then also motions get easily unfeasible. So if I have this redundancy, but I also have a lot of combinations of motions of the joints, which results in collision of the robot with itself, the robot with the environment, or any other infeasible, it's exceeding any limits of the robot may have. So all this has to be taken into account just for moving the system. So now the question is, with such a complex system, can we learn in the real world? Because this is that would of course be nicest. And there are robots which can learn in the real world, like robot arms, or also these very simple humanoids that don't do a lot of actions and stand on wheels. So here, in some cases, it's possible to learn motions from scratch in the real world, but only if there are no people around. So, but if we look at humanoids and all the tasks we have stated so far, it's really, really challenging. So currently there is a lot of work going on in teleoperation, especially in industrial settings. People are teaching, especially the manipulation task, are teaching this through teleoperation. But also here, it's hard to do that when humans are really close. So the alternative, and this is something we have been working on since many years, is to learn in the computer instead. And this is also what optimization does. So as a guiding principle, we have this optimality in nature. So there's the assumption that many systems in nature, but also motions, are optimal. And this is something we try to transfer to robots. So we can use model-based optimization or also optimality-based learning for predicting motions of robots, also of humans. And all we need is a physically correct description of the robot as a computer model. And then we need the suitable objective function, and this can generate as a motion. So this is basic principle of the optimization approach, but also very, very similar to the basic learning approach. So the question now is, I said, it's easy. So, but we of course need the model and we need the objective function. And now the question is, where do we get that from? So one approach for this is inverse optimal control. And that means, again, we take inspiration from humans. So we collect data of how humans do it, then solve the inverse optimal control problem, which means we extract the objective function or cost function that the human has been using, and then we apply it to the other system, in this case to the robot. So we take on both sides, we take into account that a human and the robot are not the same, so we have the human dynamics on the one side, and we have the robot dynamics on the other side, but we extract the basic principle, which is the objective function or cost function. And then, transfer this. So this is, of course, equally important for reinforcement learning, where you need your reward function, but you also have to somehow either construct it. So right now there's a lot of people playing around with different kind of reward functions. But yeah, you can also essentially get that also from the inverse optimal control side, or it's also similar to inverse reinforcement learning. But this is one way of getting a good objective to do this learning or optimization in the computer. Okay, so back here at my overview. So today, as I said, I will mainly talk about what we did for humanoid robots, and I will also show how the human inspiration and the computational side helps us doing what we did. Okay, so I will now quickly show you a number of things we think robots should learn. And so on the one hand, they have to learn all kinds of dynamic motions. So this includes walking, this includes standing up from sitting, but that also includes balancing. Balancing is a very important base functionality for a lot of things. Humanoids also should learn how to use human tools, so we want them to be versatile, we want them to be to help humans in all kinds of situations, so they should also be able to use human tools. We also want them to be able to use transportation tools which are made for humans. So things like Segway, scooters, and so on, because humanoids, if they travel over large distances, it also would be better if they could use them than walk a long distance. And for many of the tasks I have stated, humanoid robots also have to learn how to interact with humans closely. And I mean, here you see all these nice different symbols. And this is essentially the different motions I will be visiting now in my talk and show what we did for robots here. Okay, I will start with humanoid walking. So walking, again, that could be looked at different levels. So walking in many cases is studied on the whole body level. So we look really at all the joints. We can also look at templates models of walking, which has some of the joints in it or some replacement joints, but not all of them. And walking also sometimes is interesting to just see how is the walking path or the walking trajectory selected. So how do I walk from here to the door? So I will mainly talk about this, but briefly also about the others. Okay, so this is how we started with walking motions and how we developed the concept of inverse optimal control for generating the walking trajectory from one point in a room to another. So we started by using human measurements of multiple people, then extracted the objective function and transferred it to the robot. And that gave really, really nice and really natural ways of how to leveraging forward walking and sometimes also turning and sideward stepping and so on. So, but if we want to go more complex, we have to, of course, also look at much more complex models. So what do we want to have in a model? So if we really want to take the robot to the limits, and that was even more important for robots which still had more limits. I mean, the newer ones are stronger, but we really have to respect full robot kinematics. We have to include all the dynamic properties of the segments. We have to add kinematic constraints, for example, joint angles, velocities, the dynamic constraints like the torque limits. And then, we have to, of course, include avoidance of auto collision, contact with the environment, and also in some robots, also the avoidance of hard impacts. Also, this is something which is getting better for the newer generation. And then, but if we, that's what we can do for a lot of offline computations, which we purely do in the computer before the robot starts running. But if we, move it online, want to use it in control, we most likely are going to use simpler models. So that's just overview of the formulation. So we have that optimal control problem with the objective function in a general form, then the robot dynamics and all the different constraints which describe the robot's limitation, but which also describe the task. So I will now show you some older work on optimal control, and then show you the newer work on learning we are doing. So here is work done together with the LAS on the HRP2 robot, where we used optimal control to generate motions with different objective functions. So this is just one step. But the nicer example is this one here, where we made the robot perform the largest step possible by really taking all its properties into account. And here you can see the comparison of the simulation and the real robot, and it really matches well after many years of tuning the model, essentially. And now the question is, how do you formulate that problem? So the simple version would be, we want to maximize the obstacle height, so let's maximize the obstacle height. But this didn't work in the end, so it also was a lot of tuning that I now also see in reinforcement learning, is that, essentially you put the obstacle height in the constraints and you do iterations and put it higher and higher. And then you also have a lot of other objective functions that, make the robot move in a smooth way. In this European project that I led, also quite some time ago, we tried to do that in a bit more systematic way for many different robot platforms, and we already had that idea of doing the transfer from humans to robots, by using models in the middle. And we also looked into how to combine methods of optimization, learning, and also movement primitives. So the idea is that optimal control alone takes a lot of time, same as reinforcement learning if you do it on the full model. So this gives nice results, but the computation times are very high. So the question is, how do we generate a new motion if the robot comes to a situation and needs a new motion on the scratch? So, and here we developed that Kokomopol approach, which combined optimal control, motion primitives, and learning by doing some things ahead of time and others during runtime. So here in the offline preparation phase, we solved a lot of optimal control problems. Then, based on that, we extracted movement primitives. And then, so this took a few hours to a few days. Then we could, when we had the new situation, we could really quickly assemble new motions based on these movement primitives, and then perform the movement on the robot. So the example we were looking at was a walking sequence with different step lengths. So imagine the robot comes in a situation, sees different step stones, and has to perform a certain sequence of step length. So we computed, as in that offline training, we computed a lot of different step lengths, also motions that got longer in the steps and some that got shorter and so on, and then extracted the motion primitives, and this could then go to the robot for a new sequence of step length, as you can see here. So here it's not marked on the floor, but essentially the robot just gets the sequence, and in less than a few seconds it can generate that new motion and then execute it really nicely. And the motions generated by these movement primitives were nearly optimal, and they were also very feasible on that robot, which actually is quite picky about motions being feasible. So that was a nice approach. Yeah, using inverse optimal control, I quickly show you this example. Here, that's a stepstone walking, where the videos don't run. So we performed human movements up there, took data, combined that with a model of the human, then extracted, solved the inverse optimal control problem, which gave us the objective function that was applied. So this was done on a template level basis, and then we applied it to these template models of the humanoid, and based on a humanoid model. And this then, so we had these template models for 2 different robots. So we had the red one and the silver one. So that's actually the one you saw on the last slides. And we could also do it for different stepstones. So they could just be translated to new situations. And then after that is solved, we solved inverse kinematics, and this could then be put to the real robot. So this was also an approach which worked really nicely. Now we are moving towards reinforcement learning, and we are also moving towards a full comparison of what are the advantages of the optimal control approach, what are the advantages of reinforcement learning. So here also, in the same way, we require a very good model of the robot. The better it is, the better the learning works. We also, it's a bit less sensitive in reinforcement learning than in optimization with the model properties. And we also need that good reward function. So this is what we are currently working on. And here, goal is to in the end compare reinforcement learning and optimization in terms of efficiency, energy costs, and also result, so on. And then the idea is that maybe in the end we would compare, like somehow combine it, or maybe optimize to one and then continue learning. So this is something we are currently exploring, because no one has done that comparison so far. Okay, here's some more motions that Will, my PhD student from Waterloo, is currently looking at. So walking, skateboarding, and also things like you need a logistics like pushing a box or pushing a cart. We also were part of the Eurobench project. So the Eurobench was a European project to develop benchmarking settings or scenarios for humanoids and also exoskeletons to prepare them and evaluate them for the real world. We developed a set of benchmarks, so unified benchmarks, but also 2 facilities were set up, one for exoskeletons in Madrid and one for humanoids at IIT. And so the idea was that all humanoid robots could be taken there to be evaluated and compared. So it would actually be really nice now that we have all these robots to see them going to this facility. We developed also a few benchmarks in this context, and one was to look at stability during walking. So here the robot has to walk at a certain step length, and then it does that 3 times, and then the step length is increased. So that's the standard, and the idea is to see how long it can do that and when it starts falling. So and here you see the robot performing it, and that would also be adjusted to the size of the robot. Okay, here you see it, and that's the last one when it's falling. So that's a way to characterize stability of robots. And so this was it about walking. The next motion I want to look at is humanoid sit-to-stand transfer. So we have humanoids sitting on a chair and standing up. So that's maybe not what a humanoid is always doing, but it's a really nice test case for lower limb strength, because that's also the motion which is most challenging for humans, especially elderly humans. So yeah, in that benchmark, it's again a benchmark which we developed in Eurobench. So we have that initial sitting configuration for the robot, which is also standardized. And then we have two challenges. One is to reduce the chair height, so to make it more and more difficult. And the second one is to increase the foot distance. So moving feet more and more forward makes also standing up more difficult. Yeah, so now you see solutions for the robot, also for the REMC, performing sit-to-stand motions for situations which get more and more difficult, also using optimal control. And yeah, again, here it's really an optimal control based on the precise model of the robot, pre-computed, and also an objective function which makes it nice and smooth, which is also something we took from human motions. Yeah, and this is a quite challenging scenario for the robot, so it really requires that all parts of the body help, as you can see here. So this is now the situation where it's getting more and more difficult because the feet are moved forward, and you can also see how the robot has to support more and more with the arms. So please don't be distracted by the head. The head joint was broken, but the head is not, it's not attributing. But I know it's distracting. So and now we have the other one where the chair height is lowered. And so it's also, it really needs the support of the trunk and also of the arms for that. Okay, so what we found out here in that case was that it was really, really important to have a good robot model. So for this robot, we got one first, but then we discovered it actually, we saw that we couldn't do the sim to real transfer. And we also, it really wasn't able to follow the trajectory. And we also saw that actually already the weight of the robot didn't fit to what we could measure. So we took the robot to the motion capture lab and put it in all kinds of configurations to improve at least the segment masses and the segment center of mass locations. We are not able to measure torques, so we couldn't do the moments of inertia, but that could be improved. And what you just saw was computed with the improved model. And here you also see the comparison for the motions you just saw in the video. One is the solid one is the computed one, and the dashed one is the dashed one is the model, and the solid one is the experiment. So, and in most cases, except for the really challenging one, it works really, really nicely. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is humanoid manipulation, and in particular humanoid bimanual manipulation. So here there was also a benchmark we developed in Eurobench, built up from IKEA shelves, where also not just where the robot put it, but also how precisely it put it, and then also the times it took, and so on. So we had one which was more or less manipulating in space, and the other one was carrying around. But we also used optimization to manipulate things with fine granulation. So here you see this buzz wire where the robot has to move that loop as quickly as possible, but without touching the wire. Again, you can formulate that as optimal control problem, which could be set up based on vision information of the robot. And here you see it performing the motion, first in simulation, and then also on the real robot. And that also transferred really nicely. But as you already saw in the example before, a lot of the manipulation is actually bimanual. So we have these situations where we are carrying boxes, we have brooms, we have rolling pins, and there it requires that both hands of the robot are moving in a very coordinated way. So for this, we first of all developed a metric because yeah, manipulability is a nice metric, but now we have to do it for 2 hands. So yeah, if we have this manipulability measure that you all know, we have to take it for the weaker hand. But this is not everything. We cannot just go about manipulability because we are working with a humanoid robot which likes to fall. So we also have to take the stability aspects into account. So we developed this combined stability manipulability metric yeah, here based on the capture point. Yeah, with that we can analyze the workspace and show how, yeah, here you see a visualization of just the manipulability metric, the stability metric, and then also the combined metric. So yeah, we could already explore which are good space. And this is, of course, very dependent on the object, because this depends on specific constraint each object is imposing. Yeah, so here you see it for an example of manipulating a box on the left. And here you see it for rolling pins and for a broom. And you see that, of course, in these 2 cases we have symmetric spaces, but here with the broom, of course, a lot of asymmetry gets in. And yeah, this can be used for motion generation, for yeah, computing. Actually, I think I will show it here. So we can exploit that where we have a combination of the static manipulability metric and the combined one. So here you see how the robot is moving a box. Here you see how it's moving the rolling pin, and here it's swiping with a broom. Okay, so yeah, the next step would be to include that in a single metric framework, because in the controller I've just jumped, we essentially have this kinematic and dynamic split. So now the next thing would be to really use that in optimal control and to exploit it while generating the trajectory. Okay, so now we come to the more interesting applications, which is balancing. So we started by putting the humanoid robot on a balancing board, which you see here. So balancing, I mean, it needs it if it's in many situations, like in a vehicle or on a ship, but it's also something we will need for many other applications. So we have this balancing board, and we put the robot in both directions, so in frontal, but also in sagittal plane, and we actuated this balance board. So this was done by adding a bar, and you see later that 2 people will be moving that a bit arbitrarily. Yeah, so we started again with biomechanical experiments, and here, extracting basic principles. So this was not a very detailed study, but is what was more about how are we actually doing it. So we are compensating a lot with our ankle joints. We are trying to keep our trunk upright, and we are trying to modulate our angular momentum, or reduce our angular momentum. And this was done here, was implemented in the controller, where we have a stabilizer for the task space, references with all these criteria, and then we solve an inverse dynamics problem, so a QP, which modulates all these properties, some as constraints, some as objective functions, and then generates the robot motion. So here that's a position-controlled robot, so we need these joint positions. Okay, and here you see now the simulation. So in this case, it's in the sagittal plane, and we also, as you see here, we did not only modulate the board, but we also applied pushes from the back. And you can nicely see how the robot is reacting with its entire body. So it's really, it's not just using the legs and the trunk, but also the arms. Here you see how the board is operated, and you see the push also coming from the back. So that's push stick, so we can also measure the size of the pushes. Yeah, so here you see it a bit sped up, and you really see how the robot can cope with it. Now we see it in the frontal plane. That's a slightly different task for the robot because it has different degrees of freedom in the different planes, and of course also because the contact area is a different one. But yeah, here it also, you see here it doesn't have a sideward joint in the trunk, so it has to do it already from the hip joints, but it can actually sustain quite large perturbations, which you will also see in a second. So it was large deviations, but you will also see in a second how a really large and sudden perturbation is applied. So yeah, Pranav, the guy on the right, will now step on it and really make it jump, but it still could recover with that, with that controller. So see here, it's a big peak, so we didn't do that too often, not to destroy the robot, but it worked nicely. Okay, so now we move to the personal transporters, and in particular the Segway, which also requires the last two capabilities that we just talked about. So not sure who of you already rode a Segway, but that requires to do two things. So it's the Segway with the handle, so the traditional one. And here you have to lean forward or backward to accelerate or decelerate. So it's by a center of mass, change of the center of mass. But then to turn left or right, you need to move these handles. And the handles, they have to be moved by quite a big force, and they really have to, that makes you go to the side. So it's not really the leaning as you might guess from that picture, but it's really moving that handle. So in order to do that, we require bimanual manipulation skills, but we also require balancing skills, so what we just talked about. Again, we learned from humans, so we did motion capture experiments. They served for two things. So one, to see what the human is actually doing, but also to analyze the transporter, the Segway, a bit more. So we know how it basically works, but we had to analyze or identify a lot of parameters in order to have a good model for the Segway. Then we use that human motion analysis, perform motion generation for the robot, and then can perform a simulation. So for the simulation also we needed that Segway model. And then we move it to the real robot. So the real robot later will not be using the Segway model. That was just to have a realistic simulation. So this is here a few videos from the motion capture experiment. You can really see what the Segway is doing, what the person on the Segway is doing. So that is work done by Saga Rajendran from my Waterloo lab. And then developed again a controller, which we could, on the one hand we could indicate with a joystick or with a gamepad what the general motion was the robot was supposed to do, or we had some other kind of high-level planner. And again here it's about a hierarchical QP, which includes tasks on the center of mass, the foot pose with unilateral contact, the bimanual constraint on the handles, then this manipulability stability metric, angular momentum regulation, and also the 6D contact. And now showing you a few examples, starting with the basic motions. So this is just driving straight, and I think in simulation you can see really nicely how the robot is modulating its center of mass location here. That's also another view. And that's the one in real life. This frame is only to secure the robot, but they are not moving it. The robot is really performing all the motions by itself. The other elementary motion is rotating in place, and also, this works quite nicely. Here you see how the robot is grasping the handles with its hand, and here you also see how it's moving around, and that actually applies with a quite big force. Here it's on the real robot, so there's still a few perturbations. You can see it also can turn in both directions. So now we have a mix of those. So the robot is now supposed to move along a serpentine trajectory, so move forward and at the same time go left and right. And we also compared the desired trajectory and then also what it was actually doing, and it was really nice. We could track it here with the motion capture in the lab. Then also it has to be able to recover from disturbances. So here it's pushed again, and the task is here that it stops again. Not necessarily at the same point, but it has to come to a stop after being pushed. And you also see really how the center of mass is adjusted to that. That's another way of applying perturbations. So there's an obstacle, and the robot is supposed to go straight. So now it's starting, and you can see it gets that perturbation, and it reacts a lot. You can also see, that's from the robot's body cam, so you can see how it's moving the hands. So that's not used for the control, that's just for making these videos. And then we had a last set of perturbations, and they were throwing these bike tires, because then it was clear that it was not a previously known perturbation, but really randomly placed. And the robot again had the task to go straight over it and compensate for everything. So now you see the robot reacting to that. You can see it's doing a lot with the arms, but it can nicely go across. And I think that's already quite a big rough terrain, and it's nice it can do that with the Segway, because walking already would be quite difficult over these obstacles. Okay. So next steps here are that we did it still in the lab. So for the floating base estimation, we were still using the Viken motion capture, but we want to adjust that, use the IMU and the head camera to also be able to take it outside, and then take it outside and try it on other rough terrain, really on streets and grass and so on. Okay, so now what I showed so far was mainly physical motion skills, and it was about the robot moving alone. So now I want to move towards interactions, and so they are physical, so interactions with people, but as soon as we interact with people, we also have to talk about the social component and the psychological aspect. So how do people really like this? Interacting with a robot in particular at close proximity. So the idea is that we have this physical part of the interaction where we have to make sure that the task is actually satisfied, but that it's also safe. And on the other side, we have the social component. That means how do robots have to look like, but also how do they have to behave, how do they have to move, so that people let them come in close proximity and are not scared. So we have done a lot of trials already, a lot of people close to robots, and you really have to do it right so that they like it. So the question is, how do we perform these motions, even if they are safe and everything is good, but how do we perform them so that people also like the robot's presence? And this is the physical and the social side, so we call that physical, social, human-robot interaction. And as an example, we looked at dancing. So we thought dancing is a nice test case where, yeah, they are close. And then also we can test the robot in different roles. So the robot could be either the follower, where you drag along the robot and it's just following you, as you see on the left, or you could also have the robot as a leader. And then the question is, how does it have to lead, and how does it really have to communicate its intent? Yeah, and there was work by my postdocs, Marie and Francisco. And we performed a set of experiments with more than 20 people of robot dancing slow waltz with people. If you're wondering why they have this other grasp, it's because of the robot sensors. And it's also for not starting with the closest closest interaction, but have a slight distance. So here the robot is the leader, and we compared different leading styles, so different cues that it would transfer to the people. So we had 22 subjects, 11 male, 11 female, different ages. You see all the heights. And we had very different experience in dancing and also in interactions with robots. So in both cases, from nothing to a lot of experience, and also they were not exclusive, the knowledges. So there's also people who have both experience, but there were also some who didn't have any. So we had all kinds of combinations. And we looked at different experimental conditions. So we had physical cues, we had audio cues, and combined. So in the physical ones, we call it hand wrench. It's essentially a force-based control at the hands. We had hand displacement, and then we had torso rotation, which was just a visual cue, but not affecting how the hands moved. Then we had audio cues, which was counting the steps, and also the other one was giving step directions, so left, right, back, forth. And then we also had no signal. And then we also had, a combination of physical and audio. So we got, not very uniform results. So essentially the people had very different preferences, and we also didn't see any correlation to the previous experiences in both fields. I think what was very clear is that the nicest one was physical and audio combined. So the robot is doing some physical interaction, but also saying something. And they preferred the direction one slightly. But then within the physical one, it was very different what they preferred and what they didn't. But there was a slight preference for the force-based one over the displacement-based ones, which I think is also quite to be expected. What was really nice is that there was an overall comfort check of before the experiments, how comfortable are you in doing something with a robot, and afterwards. So for all of them, the comfort afterwards was higher. So so no one regretted being close to the robot. They all had a good experience in the end. They also had some things they liked more, others they liked less, but in general, they liked interacting with the robot. And now we're also going further and look at more at different controllers. But as I said before, the experience they had in both areas, we saw some slight impact on the extremes, like the very good dancer had a very clear opinion, but otherwise it was very diverse. So to be explored more. Another thing we also have to do with robots is communication. And now we are briefly without contact. But here it's also about how the robot uses its body, and that's actually what it has to do also before getting in touch with people. So if robots talk to people, they also should somehow do something with their body. So what we want them to do is during conversation with the robot, they should engage their body and behave naturally, and they also should behave naturally in the context of multiple people talking to them. So we thought about the role of different body segments, and this is also based on a very old study we did on overall locomotion paths, where we essentially had the trunk and the head. And and here the head is always turning, the head is always leading. You turn, and that means your head looks first, and then your body follows. And this is something we also see here. So if a person moves around and the robot talks to them, the robot should first follow with the head, and then afterwards follow with the body, and then, if necessary, also take steps. So this is how we came up with that model, and we try to fit that on human recordings. So they talk to each other, and this guy walks around, and we want to see how the standing person follows with the head and so on, and then we can model it with this 3-segment model that I just showed you. And then we also added more skills so that the robot can use vision and audio signals combined to find out where the speaker is. That was also because we also want to talk to multiple people, and also so that the robot doesn't just have to see them, but can also identify a speaker behind. So you see it's, as soon as he talks, the robot looks towards him. And here we have 2 people, which is a bit bad because the second person actually you just see the hand, but you can see how the robot is looking back and forth depending on who is actually talking. And who is talking is again determined by audio, but also by looking at if the mouth moves. Okay, so now both these studies give us a quite good base for bringing humanoids to close proximity with. We want to take humanoids to healthcare, and here we started. It's actually a project about touch, but we started with a non-touch study. In this case, with a small humanoid robot, Naval. Where Naval is performing entrance interviews and also psychological state interviews with participants here in a healthcare setting, in a geriatric hospital. And the idea is that we would like to use robots in the future for welcome interviews, but also for psychological assessment, but also for guiding people around, and in the next step then also to performing tests. So the participants here did that interview with a robot, but also with a human participant, and we looked at facial emotion. We also looked at saliva samples, which can tell us if there's stress, and also at the heart rate. And we are still analyzing the data, but it looks like they had a quite good experience with the robot, and it's a quite promising avenue to go. But coming to physical interactions in healthcare, this is research by my PhD student Peter Lee from Waterloo, and it's about COVID testing. So he started his PhD in 2020, and we thought that was a really nice example which was important at that time and which also would have helped a lot, but which also is a super nice benchmark for a medical test which you have to do very delicately. So we did it with this Franca arm, and you all know it. In swab testing, you have to approach the swab to the nose, then you have to insert it, rotate it, extract it again, and then afterwards put it to a container to analyze it. So we are mainly looking at the first 2 parts. With that arm, but the problem is here we need to have really sensitive force measurements. So the first thing he did was develop here a load cell interface which could measure these really small things and which fits to any general purpose arm. And that also has a camera included, and it has this swab holder, which is magnetically attached to this load cell thing, so we can also detach it to be safe when the forces get too big. So we did human trials on approaching the nostril, and we also did that with all kinds of, essentially it was all lab members, also with different skin color, to also see if we could nicely approach all their nostrils, and that worked really, really nicely. And then the next thing was inserting the swab, and here we have to do really clear limitations for how deep we have to put it and what kind of forces are required, and that was again solved by optimization. And I'm now showing you the final video of the robot. So it's a bit faster than regular. Take that. It may seem a bit fast at some places. So here this robot takes the swab, as you can see. There will be a second robot, because here we didn't do it with humans, but we did it with a phantom. But the second robot holds the face phantom, and it's mimicking that the patient moves a little bit. So in order to see how that performs under perturbation. So here you see there's the nose. Here the approaching is a bit more difficult because it's not a full face, but then the entrance, so that can be tested without hurting anyone, but I can assure you the force limits are satisfied. So who would like to do that with a robot? Who would dare? One roboticist in the entire room. 2, that's good. Yeah. I think I had much worse experiences in many street corners during COVID. So I think it's that robot would really do it well. Okay, but that's the next phase. Yeah, here we could also evaluate and then look at the forces and so on. And overall the controller showed very good performance also for the very wiggly head motions, which is probably more than any person would do. Yeah. But here, the next step, of course, is that, from the static robot arm, we want to go to a mobile platform, which is our new platform, Thiago Pro. And you can see, we work a lot with legged robots, but I think for applications like this, wheels are nicer and are safer, because for once we don't have to care about stability. So this is the robot we want to take here. Okay, so what's next? This robot, we have a lot of plans with it, so we really want to take it to healthcare and teach it to do all kinds of things. We already had first thesis on scratching, on massaging, and we also want to have it do other tests, also simpler ones and also more difficult ones than the COVID one that you just saw. And here we really need to perform the motions so that they are physically good, but also socially and psychologically acceptable. And this is something we are also exploring together with a lot of participants. And here also, of course, the generative AI can help a lot by doing the high-level planning and also by understanding a lot of things. We also have a new nice platform with legs. So the yellow REAM-C is still in my group in Canada, but we got this new H1 from Unitree, and we're just starting to work with it. And here it's already quite impressively stable, but we want to make it more stable, teach it new motions, and for that we are also really looking into what we can learn from sports. In particular, we are looking right now at martial arts like karate, and we don't want to teach it karate. Other people are doing that, but we want to use stability knowledge, because the motions we are looking at, we really need advanced stability criteria. And we are also continuing our other work on human motions, where we really want to also understand how different impairments affect motions, and that also can be done with inverse optimal control. Then we do work a lot with exoskeletons, and also have so that's one of the newest exoskeletons, which has some relationship to the very nice one we saw in the museum yesterday. But we are also really happy to have this one, which is the Wondercraft only self-stabilizing exoskeleton around, and we want to contribute to make it more self-stabilizing also in very complex environments. So this is not about humanoid, but of course the stability part is really, really related to humanoids. And then last but not least, we are also performing a lot of research with older adults, and here a lot with robotic rollators, where we also look at walking, at sit to stand, and try to stabilize people not via stepping, but via forces at the hands. And this is also tested with real patients. Okay, so just a quick summary. You have seen my list of things we did with humanoids, so I think we have, and many others, of course, have endowed humans already with quite considerable motion skills. Both human movement studies and optimization and learning have really been important factors for that. I also showed you a lot of performance indicators that we have been looking at, and I think that's really important to be able to generate these motions, to have these really good performance indicators that describe when a motion is good and when it's not good, and also how to formulate the constraints involved with the motion. And so the current limitations we had, both on hardware and software and controllers. So I think the hardware ones are going up are going partly away with a new hardware. So we will continue working on the software and the controllers, and also on developing these new criteria which we need for that. So we will go, in future we will do more on combining optimal control and learning, and also other model-free approaches. I'm always a bit reluctant to call learning model-free, because in the end it's using the same model in the simulation. As you've seen, we have new humanoids, legged, and also the new legged one, but also a wheeled one, and there we want to also implement our things. And one thing I was trying to point out is that we shouldn't only care about the physical interaction side, but also about the social interaction side. So for us, it's also really important to do these studies with people and see how they like it. And we also try to go outside the lab, and if it's something that patients should be using, we also try to bring it to patients. So it's always a lot of work, and you need ethics application for that, but it's, I think it's really important to do that. So, wanted to thank my teams at KIT and also the one at Waterloo, and some things also were from my previous team at Heidelberg. And I'm thanking you for your attention. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Katja Mombaur, our dear guest, to use a metaphoric description that she opened the window of the future to see what we can expect in humanoid robotics. Thank you to all our plenary speakers, and we have pleasure this time at the RAAD to meet both the history as well the future of European robotics. Katja, do you have enough energy to answer a few questions?
Yes.
Thank you. You have water if you need. Okay, I invite Professor Obradović.
Thank you very much for a great talk here. Moving forward, why is this? I have to move. Is it better? Works from here. So let's change the problem a little bit. Yeah, let's dream right here. How about we want our robot to dance tango? Yeah, so it has to be much faster, and we are given this hardware, new generation that can handle speed. Yeah, but we still have constraint optimization issue, and iterative optimization is slow. So first question is moving forward the future based on iterative optimization, gradient descent approaches, or some people do different approaches like neuromorphic computing, much faster but not differentiable, another challenge. So that's problem one. And then follow-up question, let's say that we are giving this objective function, loss function. So is that all it takes? So what about learning? Can we benefit? This is a new game, a new dance. We have not seen it. Do we have to go from the scratch in this learning? Can we rely on transfer learning? This robot already knows some dances, but this is quite different steps. Thank you.
Okay, so I think there were a lot of questions. I'm not sure if I got them all. Okay, so other dances. Tango. So with the REAM-C, I think we couldn't do tango. With the new ones, I think we can do much faster dances. So they are really fast in reacting. We still have to, of course, make sure that the way they react is safe to humans. For new dances, I think we would have to teach it to them. But I think the initial teaching in simulation is good. You can do the basic teaching in simulation, and then you do perturbance studies in reality. So one of the things we actually want to transfer from one motion to the other one is, it's still that idea of what is the objective function, or what is the reward function. I think this is something you can transfer, and I really want to bring, like everything that makes a motion acceptable to the person in case of dancing, I would like to bring into the cost function. And then the different dances, I would describe them by constraints. So because they have the very prescribed step sequence, that's something which is, which you have to do, because otherwise it's not this dance. And then this is different for slow waltz than for tango. But my idea would be that in order to have this, part of the objective form would probably be also dancing style, because, we also had dance experts in the team who explained us dancing styles, but then also, this part that makes it acceptable for the human, I think this is something you can transfer. But I think a lot is like learning the elementary things in the model, so I don't think you can learn it on the real robot. That's what I meant in the beginning. But maybe if you have a slow waltz and then I want to get slightly faster, this is something you could try it in reality, but not something fundamentally new. So this is why I always think we will need good models as a starter to do some learning.
Okay, thank you, Professor Alin.
Yes, Katja, great talk, thank you. You mentioned that it's ongoing work, the comparison between optimization and reinforcement learning, but so far maybe some intermediate or preliminary considerations. Actually you are using the same cost function, I understand, and you are comparing more or less the algorithm. So where would be the main differences in the way of exploring the space, or where do you expect that the main differences appear between the methods?
So right now we are still a bit, my student who is doing that is currently focusing on the learning part, but we have all this experience about optimization, and so when I see how long it takes to solve the problems, I think it's, there's definitely no time advantage of learning. There may be some advantage that it's easier to implement, and there may be some advantage that the model is not, you're not so picky about the properties, about the differentiabilities and so on, but how do I say that? I would say we really would like to see for the same problem, for the same problem how long it takes. But sometimes, and this is something we already did in CoRobot, we did it for much simpler systems, we also try to compare. And there's a few things you cannot formulate in reinforcement learning. Like optimal control is much much better in distinguishing between constraints and the cost part. And then in reinforcement learning, you're essentially putting everything somehow in this function, and then you also see that constraints are not as nicely satisfied, of course, or you're also sacrificing your cost a bit. So this is something we want to see, like, does it really do we get the same results if we formulate it as closely as possible? And then actually, what does it take? Yeah, I mean, in reinforcement learning, you also solve all these different variants, but this is something you could also do in optimal control. So I think no one has ever done that comparison, and I really would like to know. And yeah, an idea we also had already in co-robot was starting with one and then switching, and at that time it was also still learning should happen on the real robot. So yeah, that's something you could do. So how far do you have to bring it in simulation, and what is the preferred method, and then how do you continue on the real system?
Very interesting. So looking for your paper. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Any other question? Okay.
There.
Signore Giuseppe Carbone, professor.
Thank you for your impressive talk. Just a curiosity, in your opinion, in terms of hardware, what area, what aspect would you feel demands more research?
Hardware.
Yeah, I mean, in your humanoids, we see really nice performances. Do you feel there is a bottleneck? Do you feel some aspects could be further improved to disrupt, to increase further the performance?
I mean, so far I would always have said the motors are still not strong enough for a lot of the support things. We would also in the arms. I mean, for the legs we would have liked to be faster, and for the arms we also would need them to be stronger to provide real support, like holding hands or I don't know, also handling heavy objects. Now with the new one, it seems quite strong. So I think we have to see how if it's strong enough. But I think yes. So, and there I think we have to look a bit at the safety of the robot. Probably also in that case adding all the sensors and the H1, as I said, I mean, as you probably saw, we now put a pink sweater on, so it looks a bit nicer. Because like some people are a bit scared by that robot's appearance, and also by the way it moves. So I think there we have to work a lot on the social side, and I think we have to find out what is required for that. And also to make it physically safe. So I can't say that much yet about this.
Okay, thank you. Having in mind the timing, I will use my opportunity as on behalf of organizer just to ask one final question. It is visionary. So we are conscious that nowadays we play the championship, world championship in robotics, especially in humanoid. From one side we have in US Elon Musk with Optimus, Boston Dynamics that make acrobatic machines. On another side of the world, we have China's agile robotics. What is your assessment? When we can expect here in Europe maybe to achieve such high level of acrobatic or bio-inspired motion? Do we have some technology restrictions, or maybe it is a question of algorithmic?
I mean, I think in Europe we have really nice platforms from like research institutions, from DLR, from KIT, from other. But I mean I don't see the same involvement of companies, and I think that's more Alin's specialty to talk about that. But yeah, I don't see that we will have what we see in the US, but also what we see in China is even much bigger. I mean they have these hundreds of companies that all do robots, and there's a new one coming out every day, and they all look interesting. And I don't see any activity here in the companies. I mean, with a few exceptions, but
Yes.
Yeah.
It is evidently that the scientists can achieve this high level. Probably is only problem that we have probably no in this moment in Europe enough support of the industry and technology.
yeah, I mean,
it's
it
question
needs,
of the business.
It needs a lot of investment, and we don't have that here. I mean, if a research institution gets that kind of investment, they could probably also do it and hire enough people to do it. But
Yes.
here we don't see that, which is a pity, because we depend on what we can. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there's a few lucky research institutions who build robots for themselves, but yeah, if you want to buy one, you have to buy them from somewhere else.
I invite for one big applause for Professor Katja Mombaur.
Oh. Okay, do we go there? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I have some service information. Being it is time for coffee break, and another exhibition will be outside. Now we will have a coffee pause on the back side of the hall. So after that, we will organize short tours to visit robotics laboratory at the, no?
Actually, it's a short tour to the Palace of Science. So we have science communicators who will lead those interested in looking at what is going on at the Palace of Science to the exhibition. So we will have them here with us. So for those interested, can follow them. And yeah, so we have a coffee break. And in meantime, we will do group picture once the chairs are removed. Okay?
Yes. And at 11, we plan to start with the presentation upstairs. So there are no so much time, but enough.